screen, and we're just going to watch it and tell me what you think.
Our national anthem.
Now we're going to take a closer look at this. When these words at the bottom change, it does this ripple effect down at the bottom. And if you look inside this ripple effect, you're going to see words change in the ripple effect. Trust the U.S. government. See, the next one is God is real, God is watching. Now, it's not in the words itself. It's in the transition of the words where they change. Believe in the government God. And you can look at this, play this back a second time and you'll be able to see it. It's definitely there. This was originally a 16 millimeter film given to the stations. And you can see when the picture shakes a little bit because of the film going through the gate, the letters shake with it in the same exact way. So it makes me think that this is indeed the original. Now you have to keep in mind this was done 50 years ago. So if they, whoever they are, were programming people subliminally 50 years ago, you can imagine the increase of technology now in order to do this. Again, the subliminal is not in the words themselves, it's in the ripple effect of the transition. God is real, God is watching. You see, they're doing it during the transition between the words. Obey, consume, obey, consume. I mean, that's very clear, and it's definitely there. And let's look at that one more time. It's right here. Do not question government. Right there. See that? Hidden in the transition. Of course, you can only see it when you slow it down. Of course, in the 1960s, no one had that capability at home to do that. Believe in government God. I mean, that's pretty clear, too, here. Let's look at it one more time here. Believe in government God. Now, again, when you go back to the beginning of it, you don't see it.
Our national anthem.
So you can see it right around here, the first words, God. This is the words that it actually says. Trust the government. God is real. God is watching. Believe in government God. Rebellion is not tolerated. Trust the U.S. government. God is real. Believe in government God. Men's institutions are now God. Rebellion is not tolerated. And this is really interesting because we're going to show a clip from this film I watched the other night. They live. This is some of the words we saw in that movie. Obey, consume, obey, consume. I thought it was funny that Bush Jr. was so popular winning 2 elections, and he constantly referred to his fellow man and fellow countrymen as consumers. And I'm here to serve consumers, not people, not citizens, not Americans, consumers. That's how these elite people view the rest of mankind beneath them in the hierarchy. They are just cockroaches consuming things that they manufacture. It says, buy, believe, worship, consume, believe, do not question government God. Now, you may remember the Magic Eye posters. These came out, I think, in the early 90s. If you've never seen these before, there's a little trick. You're really trying not to look at the surface of this kind of blue-green picture that you see. You're trying to look through it. This blue-green surface is just kind of the front of the plate of glass. Try to look through it. Try to look past it. Now, I've trained myself to see these things really easily. And for those who can now see it, you'll see a cross of Christ right here outlined, and you'll see the fish, kind of the Christian fish symbol that goes all the way around there, and it's extremely three-dimensional. I mean, that's pretty fascinating. This is a two-dimensional screen, and it looks like it's going back from, the screen that I have about 2.5 feet in depth. It's really crystal clear, and so if they're doing things like this back in the 1960s, they can do this in the 90s. Imagine what they're doing today. Now, here is the most obvious case that I've seen of subliminal advertising. This, I believe, was in the late 80s, early 90s. But basically, it's how subliminal advertising is all around us. These underground groups of people are trying to wake up their fellow Americans, and they have these sunglasses they have designed that will allow people to see what is really there. Remember, we saw in the national anthem, it said, consume, obey, consume. It's pretty interesting that this movie came out in the late 80s. So somebody in Hollywood already knew part of the message here. Now in the film, the elite people are reptilians, and they're the ones controlling the Pope, the presidency, and that's why they protect their bloodline. How long has this been going on? We don't know.
MK Naomi is often reported as MK Ultra's successor, a program ran by the CIA in the 1950s and 60s. The often illegal experiments were conducted on humans to identify drugs and procedures used for mind control. The program used US and Canadian citizens as unwitting test subjects. Drugs such as LSD and other chemicals were administered without consent. Other tactics such as sensory deprivation, hypnosis and torture, including physical, sexual and mental abuse, were deployed in these atrocious experiments. YouTube channel JZSD14ME posted this rather convincing video from a televised sign-off in the 1960s. The poster alleges that this is genuine footage from a broadcast in the United States, showing subliminal messages that have been embedded throughout the national anthem. At first it's a little confusing as to what's actually happening. The subtitles at the very bottom are put there deliberately by the poster to help interpret the embedded subliminal messages. Look closely as the words to the national anthem dissipate. You can see hypnotic statements. When the footage is slowed down, the messages become obvious. It begins. Trust us, the government. God is real, God is watching. Believe in government God. Rebellion is not tolerated. Obey, consume, obey, consume. Trust in the US government. It repeats itself, then ends with, by Ultra, by Naomi. Worship, consume, believe, obey. MK Naomi is often reported as MK Ultra's successor, a program ran by the CIA in the 1950s and 60s. The often illegal experiments were conducted on humans to identify drugs and procedures used for mind control. Other tactics such as sensory deprivation, hypnosis and torture, including physical, sexual and mental abuse, were deployed in these atrocious experiments. Could this video be more evidence of MK Ultra seeking to stupefy the masses into unquestioning obedience?
Our national anthem.
anthem again, only this time we're going to watch it slowed way down. Tell me if you notice anything different from the last time you watched it. Do you see the letters change at the bottom? Let's watch it again in even slower frame-by-frame motion. It happens so quickly you can barely see it, but you aren't meant to physically, literally see it. You are meant to subconsciously see it. It is meant to go into the subconscious and implant itself into your brain on a subconscious level. And this continues throughout this entire national anthem, and it becomes basically like the script for the movie They Live. This video was shown signing off of television programming for the day throughout the 60s, and we know that during that time is the same exact time that the mass mind control MK Ultra project, the government covert operation, was going on in the United States. They were carrying it out on the